You're listening to Where You Live with Gene and Tony.
We're back. We've been broadcasting live from the Concierge Landscape Studios and brought to you by Extreme Exteriors. Right now, it's time for a message from the Minnesota Multi-Housing Association. The MHA Minute is brought to you by Pest Control Services. When you need an exterminator, you should call Greg Keener at Pest Control Services, 952-894-9748. I always do. Pest Control Services is a proud member of Angie's List and a member of the Minnesota Multi-Housing Association. Pest Control Services, 952-894-9748. Tell Greg that Gene and Tony sent you.
If you're renting out a property for the first time, there's a lot you need to know so that you can do it successfully and, frankly, keep yourself out of trouble. Luckily, there's a statewide resource with all the tools you need to run your new business successfully. In fact, the Minnesota Multi-Housing Association regularly holds a seminar called Accidental Landlord, specifically designed for people who are renting out a property for the first time. They also have residential leases, security deposit agreements, a lead disclosure, and lots of other forms. They even have brochures on the principles of successful property management and the eviction process that you can download for free. So if you want to know more about the Accidental Landlord Seminar or other classes about owning, managing, or maintaining anything from a single unit to a growing apartment portfolio, visit the Minnesota Multi-Housing Association's website, mmha.com. That's two M's, mmha.com.
Gene, we were talking about in the last segment, Senate File 926. It went back to committee. It's come out again. It still has some things that we don't really like that well for our homeowners associations. You were talking about the political campaign signs.
Yeah, and again, when we're talking about the issues of flags and signs, what we have here is the state legislature saying that the homeowner association collectively cannot determine for themselves the rules on how they wish to have their own property run, but these ought to supersede what the majority of those homeowners wish to
in
have
that corporation
done.
Yeah, I know, and
that's the problem.
The people with these burning issues, the individual with the burning issue about the campaign sign, does not stop to think how he's restricting his own freedoms by allowing the state to step in and muck around in their neighborhood. Exactly,
and you know what? I guess the funny thing is that as it pertains to most associations, I don't think that I can say that all associations prohibit the use of flags or even flagpoles or campaign signs. I know of a number of associations that allow that to take place, and that's great. And why? Because they make that decision. I do not want to see the state step in there any more than I want them to step in and say, if you smoke inside your own home, you can't do that either. You know that.
Although they're going to do that.
That's probably coming. But again, we're talking about I think a failure to recognize that there's a pre-established covenant and agreement that homeowners have as individuals, and they say when they sign on the dotted line and purchase that property, that as the individual, I'm going to defer to the wishes of the majority in this community.
Right. That's right. And all of a sudden, they're just going to wipe out that.
I think it's making too little of an issue. Really. And the other issue, and this is the bigger one, though. Tony, that I'm concerned with, and would be a reason to not see 926 move forward, and that is in the lien provision. And because this is going to tie the hands of homeowners associations in being able to have any kind of enforcement ability among its members.
Now, the lien provision means that if a homeowner fails to pay their assessments to the homeowners association, the association can file a lien against the property and ultimately can foreclose if it's never resolved.
Yes, and the lien, and if a lien can be placed, then the next step is foreclosure.
That's right, because the association needs to collect these fees in order to pay the bills for the community.
Yeah, and so the state legislature is not saying at this point you can't do that for past due operating assessments for
they're not taking away that ability.
But any fines for violations, they think that should not be able to be something that you can get a lien for. and they would like to see that just set aside. The problem I have with that, if you have a homeowner who is difficult, and we've known a few of those.
There's a few in town.
And they continue to just thumb their nose at the association and continue to do that behavior that everybody else on the block just hates, and they get fine after fine after fine, and they pay their dues, but they're not paying that. There's no way for
there isn't any teeth in it because an association doesn't charge a security deposit to its renters like a landlord would to a renter. If a renter violates rules or damages property, the landlord has this security deposit they can apply to that, but that's not the case.
And here's what's here I know this, and this I'm sure is what Senator Gerlach is thinking. He's thinking in the case of his constituent who wanted to put a flagpole in a single-family detached home. And she ended up taking the pole down, so she did not get
because she was in a
fines.
Homeowners Association, but said no flagpoles.
But had she left it up, she could have fines, but nobody would be able to take away her home for a couple of fines. And that does seem extreme. But let me
that seems like common sense.
But let me give you an example of where I think they have not thought this through. Mm-hmm. In a townhome association, as we all know, a lot of times those streets are private streets, mm-hmm. and they're owned by the association, mm-hmm. not by the city. Mm-hmm. And because and the reason for that is because they're smaller; they're not the standard size, and so it is important for the association is held responsible for parking issues.
Okay,
you can't necessarily have a police officer come in and ticket something.
Oh, in fact, they won't. And your streets might even be designated fire lanes, and the city will not come in with a police officer cannot come in and write tickets if neighbors are parking on that fire lane.
And so you have someone who says, "I'm going to park where I want to." Now, here's the issue. You've got a street that's privately owned by the association. Mm-hmm. The association says, please don't park there because it's a safety issue.
Right.
I'll park wherever I want to. I can't be kicked out of the association ultimately with liens.
And they can't enforce fines.
And now all of a sudden there's an emergency vehicle that needs
mm-hmm.
to come in because of a fire mm-hmm. or an ambulance, and they can't get through because someone is parking. And the city, of course, has not been enforcing it because they say they wash their hands of it.
Private street.
It's a private street. This is what I'm talking about.
The association needs to have some kind of mechanism to enforce those rules. There's another issue here. Yeah. Not only safety issues with the parking, but how many times have we gotten a call from someone saying, my driveway didn't get plowed. My driveway did not get plowed. It snowed 12 inches. And we find out it's because a neighbor had parked in the fire lane directly across from their driveway. The plow couldn't even get to the driveway. So you cause problems for your neighbors.
Yes.
When you disobey the rules.
Mm-hmm. And so what this Bill 926 wants to do, it seems like it's being reasonable because they would have you believe that there are just Simon Legree boards out there wanting to just indiscriminately just foreclose on everybody.
They want to slap a bunch of fines on just so we can foreclose. And the last thing an association wants to do is own homes within the association.
Exactly. That's a great point. Foreclosure is always a last resort. It's never a first one.
That's right. They don't want to. Yeah.
Homeowner associations now, because of foreclosures and other issues, are wondering whether or not they can even pay to have another attorney move forward with foreclosure because they don't have the money in the budget. So it's unrealistic.
Yeah.
So what we're saying is there are some issues, folks, that we think still need to be addressed. And we would love it if our listeners would help in getting involved.
Call your senator, state senate,
and House representative. We can be a help to that, and give us a call at New Concepts during the week. But it looks like we're out of time. But thanks a lot, folks, for joining us. Join us again next Sunday right here on Where You Live with Gene and Tony.
How sweet it is to be loved by